Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Before we actually start, can you just give a bit of a journey into the iGaming industry and how you came to lead Unibo?
Yeah, sure. I've been in the industry for 16 years now. I started back in 2008, was more on the operator side, jumped between a few different companies. I was at Betsson Group, I was at Evoke Gaming Group, and so on. But then, about 5.5 years ago, we started Unibo
Uh-huh.
as a gamification. We saw there was a need to have these kind of functionalities. We Being on the operator side, we used a lot of gamification tools that came from other providers, but we saw that they worked quite well, but it was
Mhm.
always limited to the game providers themselves. So we started Unibo as a game agnostic gamification provider that could basically allow operators to set up campaigns and promotions on any games they wanted to, and all those promotional type we saw that worked really well with the players themselves.
So that's what inspired the creation of Unibo.
Yeah, seeing the problem on the operator side, seeing how it could be fixed, and then trying to come up with a solution for it and solve it for many operators is kind of where we come from. Univo actually comes out of unified back office. We wanted to have one back office where we could run all the promotions from.
Okay. Oh, as a blend of the two words. Got it. I
Yeah.
now get it. And onboarding is usually a critical first impression. What strategies do you think are most effective in getting new players hooked? Because especially like from a marketer's perspective, and of course with my marketing as marketing manager, I'm obsessed with that. Especially in videos, it's important to get the hook right the first few seconds because that can mean so much for the whole video and the retention of the whole video. So how does that translate in the onboarding for
I
players?
mean, onboarding players is very important. I mean, you need to be continuously adding things for the players so they see your whole offering. They understand that if they have a problem, they can get help from the support. You need to have fast sites, obviously, so they don't have issues on their end. And obviously, when they do win, you want to be able to pay out their winnings as quickly as possible and have a smooth journey when it comes to KYC and so on. But then it's also about offering something else than everyone else. There's obviously a vast amount of online casinos for anyone to choose from, whether they want to play on regulated jurisdictions, maybe they want to play on Curacao casinos, maybe they want to play on Karawaki. There's a range of online sites available, and a lot of them, almost all of them, have the same kind of games. They all have the big game providers that deliver everything. So many casinos look and feel the same, and they are very similar. So if you add something extra from the players, you can actually keep them longer. And with customer acquisition cost being so very high in this industry, it's really important to be able to get that extra retention and just keep them. So a good welcome journey where players get rewarded continuously throughout the welcome journey is key to making sure they come back and stay.
Being unique and personalizing their experience. And what are some mistakes you usually see in the industry?
I think historically a lot of focus have been on a lot of development have been spent on adding more game providers, adding more payment methods, going into new jurisdictions, adding other features. There's a lot of stakeholders that scream a lot in the industry for various things in your company, and your development department is only so big. People make use of what they have, and in many cases that means deposit bonuses and cashback offers, and deposit bonuses in particular and cashback offers, they promote, let's say, it's a negative experience. Players don't really
Mm.
want to make a deposit. They know that they have to be able to game. Players don't really want to lose. They understand that it's a possibility, obviously, and probably more like a probability that in the end they will lose. But they're there to have fun. So if you create positive reinforcements, you give reward players when they're playing or when they're winning, rather than rewarding them when they're making a deposit, like a deposit bonus. You can move away from using too many deposit bonuses, which are usually quite expensive in terms of bonus money as well. So
Mhm.
those kind of things are used a little bit too much, and historically have led to a lot of costs for operators, and then that have led to the operators adding more and more wagering requirements to the bonuses, which in the end leads to normal players thinking that bonuses are bad, and you'll never win from a bonus, while the people that are good at using bonuses, let's say bonus hunters or bonus abusers, they always find a way to get around the wagering requirement in some case, or just getting the value out of the bonus. So yeah, you have it's a hard way to be able to offer something that's still relevant for normal players, but something that can't be abused too much by players that are just there to win money, right?
It's sort of a dance between the two, finding the
Yeah,
balance.
exactly.
And the and cross channel engagement, like sticking to the engagement part of it, how important is cross channel engagement in keeping players connected, and what are the best ways to actually implement it?
You mean cross-channel as in getting them to bet on different things or keeping them engaged in different communication channels?
Keeping them engaged in different communication channels, yes.
Well, I mean, the different players are communicating different ways. Some actually read their emails and take into the account there. Others might. Nowadays, a lot of more players are playing on the mobile phones, so reaching out through
Probably.
SMS or other messaging functionality can get them to play right away. But we
Uh-huh.
also seen an increase in, say, Telegram services, chat groups in that sense that you can actually drive traffic through that kind of social media or well communication methods. I think other social media, depending on if you're fully regulated or not, then in a local jurisdiction, then you can use Facebook in other areas. But otherwise, I think players that aren't. I generally don't think the players are engaging with gambling on social media in that sense.
Hmm.
I think in many countries still gambling is somewhat of a taboo that you don't really want to talk too much about. Sure, you have sports betting that you can probably talk a little bit more about, but casino gameplay is yeah, it's like buying a lottery ticket, right? You're not really shouting out to the world that you're gambling in that sense, right?
Yeah, especially that different players using different channels. So, yeah, I mean, for example, with me, you don't want to reach out to me via email because the waiting, there's some delay there. But via WhatsApp, it's usually a lot faster.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people have moved more and more towards communication via the mobile, yeah, mobile apps like WhatsApp and Telegram and messaging and so on.
Yeah, especially Telegram. And retention metrics are key to optimizing lifetime value of the players. How do you approach defining and tracking success in player retention?
I think yeah, you have to decide what you're after when it comes to obviously you want the longer customer lifetime. That's key. You
Of
may
course.
not always want to get them to deposit as much as possible in the first month. It's more make sure that they enjoy playing with you and they can stay for a longer period of time. Make sure they kind of push them towards if they do bet too much, use the self-regulating tools so they actually yeah, it's much better to have a customer for 12 months and they spend 200 euros every month than to have a customer for 1 month and he spend 1,000 euros that month, right?
Yeah.
And generally, that thing kind of only helps affiliates to
Hmm.
get the money out fast and then they can spend the money on generating more traffic for you. But for an operator, I think you should be mindful of your players and help them control the gambling so they don't go too far overboard. In general, most players are able to control the gambling. They don't gamble too much in that sense, but
Hmm.
that's why you have tools to help them to make sure that they don't.
And are there specific metrics you're looking at in order to say that something is going in the right direction or in the wrong direction? Or are there specific metrics that you have noticed are important over the years that you've already been in the industry?
I mean, from our end, from Unibo, we try to extend the gaming experience for players. We are
Hmm.
in an industry where we try to fight for, say, screen time nowadays. We fight against Netflix, we fight against anyone, YouTube
Yeah.
Shorts, Facebook Shorts, and so on. But so extending the game time is something we try to assist our partners with by having these promotional tools that just spreads out your bonus cost and reward the players continuously smaller rewards, which make them play a little bit longer. With when they're on the site, they get a little bit more fun out of the same kind of deposit. If you historically use a deposit bonus, for example, players will get double the amount of money, but they will also know that there's a huge weight requirement attached to it.
Hmm.
So then they will probably start betting higher than they normally would, and in the end, they might even lose the money just as quickly as they would have otherwise. So they actually didn't get any longer gaming session or game time with their deposit. So they might have enjoyed that risk or the chance of winning bigger, but in the end, they didn't have more fun as in terms of time units, right? So we
Yeah.
try to push our partners to create things that makes the player want to play a little bit longer or gives the player the chance to play little bit longer than they normally would. And then that in the long run makes them come back more and stay with the brand for a longer period of time. So all in all, I mean, increased number of deposits are interesting, but if they at least if they play more with each deposit, so instead of if they win a little bit, they instead of withdrawing, they keep playing a little bit more and enjoying themselves more. It's gonna be much better for the bottom line than if they withdraw and then make another deposit because you have additional costs related to depositing costs, withdrawal costs, processing costs, and so on.
Mhm.
So just extending the amount they play with every euro they deposit can have a very good effect on the bottom line.
And metrics in terms of, I'm not sure whether this is, you have this data or not, so please do tell me if that's not the case. But data in terms of something like if we do X, Y, and Z within the first few seconds or minutes, then the retention or the amount of time the player spends on the platform increases by so much. Is there any data around that which you can share or?
Well, I mean, we have data on, we've done some case studies and seen that our partners that utilize like daily missions and have a kind of an always on with promotional type do get a significant increase in the retention with the players, say double the lifetime compared to players who aren't exposed to these kind of promotions that are just exposed to normal CRM, email, deposit bonuses, and that kind of things. So yeah, having these, it makes them play longer as long as you have an early onset where you give them, say, do these tasks, and then you get rewarded. Be clear about what they have to do, and then be clear about what they will be rewarded, and then of course real-time rewards. Nothing that comes like if you do this, we'll give you something tomorrow, right? Nowadays,
Yeah.
everyone wants instant rewards, so you have to be able to provide instant rewards,
Yes,
preferably fully
that
automatically without anyone have to do anything, right?
thanks to all the TikTok shorts, our attention span is reducing
Yeah,
massively. And
yeah.
what are some of the underlying or the key psychological principles that drive these engagement in the iGaming space?
There are different. There's a very good author called Yukai Shu. He's written Actionable Gamification. It's a book I recommend to anyone who wants to learn more about gamification. He talks about core drives, and it's drives such as he talks about 8 different core drives. I can't tell them all right now, but it's basically collection, achievement, narrative. So there's a reason why you're doing something. So, for example, if you're playing a game sort of like Super Mario or Zelda, then the
Uh-huh.
whole reason is to save the princess, right? That's
Yeah.
why you're doing it. It's not just like say asteroids where you just shoot something and you don't get any further. And then you have things like collection mechanisms. Players are or humans like to collect things. That creates a I've finished the whole collection like football cards or baseball cards. Obviously, people have collected for the last 100 years, and
Hmm.
now they're worth a lot. So these whole kind of collection mechanisms, if you add those things to your site, it can help with the retention. It creates a sunken cost prison, as it's called in World of
Yeah.
Warcraft, where players they want to stop playing, but they feel that if they stop playing the World of Warcraft, then they will have lost everything that they have spent so much time building up. So if you add things on your site where players collect things like leveling up and receiving things that actually makes it more fun for them to play, then they will have much less reason to leave for another site because they will then know, okay, but if I go and play somewhere else the same games, then I won't have these things, or I have to spend a lot of time playing there until I've gotten it and so on. I think just, for example, clearing KYC and verifying your account can be a very cumbersome process in different sites. I was myself, I had to verify the site and I had to take a selfie with a photo, and then I got that denied because apparently my whole hand have to be in the selfie photo. So I had to retake the photo again and again, and this is just problems for the players that makes it harder and makes them think like when they've gotten verified at one site, they might actually stay there just because it's such a cumbersome process. So if they go somewhere else, they think, okay, but then I have to get verified there.
It feels more valuable. Isn't it called the IKEA effect? That because you put more effort into it, that has
Oh
more
yeah,
value.
yeah, that's it.
That's the word for it, right? And in terms of emotions, because that's definitely very interesting, like these underlying psychological important things. But and the emotional effect, how what's your experience with that?
The emotional effect, as in being feeling accomplishment. If you say, let's compare it to Candy Crush, you might feel accomplishment that you're continuously making the level, and now you're at level 350 out of 800, and there's always 10 more levels coming. As soon as someone reaches the
Of
top
course.
level, then there's 10 more levels added and so on. So but there's always that leaderboard accomplishment, or you have, if you're competing against other people, you can feel accomplishment that you beat someone else. But you can also empower your customers by showing them that they reached a certain milestone. Look, you've managed to do these things, so you managed to do this and this. But then, of course, it's also the social side. If you, which of course in iGaming is a little bit
Yes.
harder, but if you can, for some reason, include a social site, there's the platform, the Mill Entertainment or Adventure. They have this live streaming with where you can look at the play behind or bet with the like pool betting. So you
Yeah.
pool your money together, and then there's a streamer who plays the money, and everyone can be in a chat and talk to each other about, and everyone then wins together. Obviously, you have live spins that also have a similar kind of bet behind functionality where they have live streamers and you place bets, and if the live streamer wins, then you win as well. So there are certain social areas that you can go get behind, like Telegram channels, as we said before as well. But yeah, there's many
We
areas you can
actually
look at.
we actually recorded the podcast with Zhao, the chief architect of the Mill Adventure.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, what I was thinking of as well is more of the seven deadly sins. I'm Dutch, so I mean the painter of is Bosch. It's called, I think it's Bosch, the painter of the seven deadly sins. That immediately came to mind there.
Yeah.
But anyway, are there moving to retention, the retention part? Are there specific strategic or strategies or campaigns that you believe have a lot of impact on the overall retention of players?
Yeah, just adding that little bit extra for the player and making sure that they can have something outside of, as I mentioned, everyone has the same kind of games. Everyone has your payment methods normally. So those things aren't something the players nowadays look at as a separator between different casinos, right? Before, let's say 10 years ago, then we had that people actually, some casinos might have one game provider that other casinos didn't have. And if you wanted to play games from Williams Interactive back then, I guess it's Scientific
Yeah,
Games now, but they
yeah,
everyone changed his name. But
of course. Every 5 years.
then you might actually choose certain casinos based on the games they've had. But now
Uh-huh.
it's with aggregators having the being able to connect all of the games to their sites, then usually players aren't missing their games if they go from one site to another. So then having that additional extra, be it a
Mhm.
super fast site or clear functionalities or just enjoyable additional things like missions, tournaments, other things like that, that actually adds a little bit more extra to the games themselves. I don't think that these kind of promotional gamified things should take over from the game. The game is
Mhm.
still the thing that the players are there to play, but you can add something to it at least.
As Naval Ravikant said, people don't like it, the thing people find interesting is the elephant on the bicycle, right? So adding things on top of the thing which is already interesting makes it more interesting. So
Yeah.
a bit of a weird comparison, but but my final question, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it to solve or change one thing in the industry, what would that one thing be?
Oh, that's a good question, I guess. Yeah, I would say that a centralized verification tool would be very nice for a lot of players. I think verification is something that getting your money out when you've won and then having to go through a verification process that might be very cumbersome. If we could have some sort of centralized verification tool that maybe everyone would need to use, not just in iGaming, then you can have
Mhm.
your online identity, and then you could just choose who to share it with and when to share it and so on, and then that could probably be on the blockchain or something similar, and that would actually support a lot of players and normal people with their everyday identification needs, right?
It would make it a lot easier for everyone.
Yeah,
All right.
I think that
That
would be the
what
main thing. Yeah.
It's a magic wand, so you can do whatever you want. Um,
Thank you.
all right, that was the final questions. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.